There's a quiet betrayal that happens, not with shouting, but with a whisper. It doesn't show up as a slap or a scream. It slips in through words that sound calm, almost caring. You're overthinking it. That phrase might seem harmless at first, but when used in the wrong context, it's a tool that bends your reality and teaches you to doubt what your heart already knows. When someone says you're overthinking it, what they might really be saying is, don't look too closely. It's a curtain, a distraction, a way to shift the attention away from the behavior and onto your reaction. Suddenly, the spotlight isn't on what they did, it's on how you're feeling about it. It turns your valid concern into a character flaw. You become too much, too emotional, too suspicious. This is how gaslighting begins. It doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it looks like calm dismissal, like someone smiling while they hand you the scissors to cut yourself down. You start to second guess your gut. You start to wonder if your intuition, the same one that's protected you, guided you, kept you grounded, is actually your enemy. But here's the truth, and I need you to hold this tight. Your thoughts, your questions, your instincts, they matter. You are not dramatic for noticing when something feels off. You are not paranoid for asking for clarity. In fact, one of the bravest things you can do in a relationship is to ask the hard questions, even when the answers might hurt. When someone loves you, they lean into your concern. They don't mock it or sweep it away with a convenient phrase. They hold space for your worry. They don't label it as irrational. They meet it with patience, empathy, and truth. Love doesn't hide behind deflection. Love doesn't fear examination. The danger in hearing you're overthinking it too many times is that you start to believe it. You shrink your questions. You quiet your voice. You abandon the very wisdom that was trying to protect you. And that, beloved, is how we lose ourselves in the name of keeping someone else. So if someone in your life consistently makes you feel like your clarity is confusion, like your curiosity is craziness, pause. That's not love talking, that's control, that's deflection, that's fear of being found out. You were never made to question your worth just because someone else is hiding the truth. Trust your gut, trust your growth, and above all, trust that asking questions isn't a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength. There's a moment when the heart feels something before the mind can explain it. You notice a shift. Maybe it's how often his phone lights up, the way he suddenly guards his screen, or how his tone softens when he says her name. And when you gather the courage to ask about it, you hear those 4 words, she's just a friend. At face value, it sounds simple, even reasonable. People are allowed to have friends. Of course they are. But it's not the words alone that cause the ache. It's the energy behind them. It's the defensiveness, the quickness, the way your concerns are brushed off instead of cared for. Because deep down, you're not asking about a label, you're asking about a boundary. We live in a world where emotional affairs are often treated like they don't count, as if betrayal only begins when bodies cross a line, not when hearts and secrets do. But love, true, whole, healthy love, doesn't draw the line that late. It doesn't say, it's fine as long as I didn't touch her. It says, I'll protect your peace even when you're not in the room. She's just a friend becomes dangerous when it's used as a shield, when it's not an explanation but an escape, when it's said with enough force to end the conversation rather than start one. Because if you're uncomfortable, if your heart is heavy, if your spirit senses adrift, then it matters. Your pain deserves presence, not platitudes. Here's the hard truth. Cheating doesn't always begin with kissing. Sometimes it begins with comparison, with inside jokes, with messages hidden under fake names, with someone sharing more of their truth with another woman than they do with you. It begins in the slow, secret erosion of intimacy, and that slow fade can hurt just as much, sometimes even more, than physical infidelity. You're not jealous for noticing. You're not possessive for feeling uncomfortable. You're attuned. You're intuitive. And that's something to honor, not apologize for. When a man chooses to entertain another woman emotionally while staying physically present with you, he's not just blurring lines, he's crossing them quietly, consistently, and then hiding behind innocent words to make you feel guilty for seeing it. Love isn't a courtroom where you have to build a case just to be heard. You shouldn't have to present evidence, timelines, or screenshots just to justify why you're hurting. If someone truly values your heart, they won't need to be convinced. They'll already be concerned. They'll take your unease seriously because they know that connection is fragile, sacred, and worth protecting. So, beloved, when those words, "she's just a friend," come dressed as reassurance, but feel like dismissal, listen to your inner knowing. You are not asking for too much. You're asking for truth, for transparency, for emotional safety. And anyone who asks for your loyalty should be ready to offer you nothing less in return. There's a particular ache that comes not from betrayal itself, but from being made to feel like the villain for noticing the betrayal. When someone looks you in the eye and asks, "Why don't you trust me?" But not with a soft heart, not with humility, but with offense, defensiveness, or manipulation. It's not always a question. Sometimes it's a weapon. It's a clever reversal. One moment you're expressing hurt, confusion, or fear. The next you're suddenly on trial for doubting. The conversation flips. You're no longer talking about their actions. You're defending your feelings. And instead of addressing the behaviors that made you uncomfortable, you're forced to justify your intuition. This is not love. This is emotional deflection. And it's deeply disorienting. Trust is a two-way bridge. It's not owed, it's earned. And when someone breaks that trust, even subtly, even slowly, it's not on you to pretend it didn't happen. Healthy love invites accountability. It doesn't hide behind indignation. If someone truly cares about your heart, they don't punish you for being cautious. They lean in and ask, "How did I make you feel that way?" But when a man says, "Why don't you trust me?" with a tone that shames you, it often means he's more interested in protecting his image than restoring the relationship. It's easier for him to frame you as suspicious than to confront where he might have been dishonest, distant, or emotionally unavailable. It's easier to make you feel insecure than to admit he's been inconsistent. This kind of blame shifting creates an emotional maze. You begin to ask yourself if you're broken for needing reassurance. You start walking on eggshells, afraid to bring up the same topic twice. You convince yourself to just let it go because you don't want to seem controlling, needy, or paranoid. But the truth is, what you're asking for is not control. It's clarity. It's safety. It's respect. Let's be honest, trust isn't built through bold declarations. It's built in the quiet, everyday moments when words and actions align. When the phone isn't flipped over at dinner, when responses don't come with defensiveness, when your feelings are met with compassion, not criticism. When there's consistency, not confusion. Real trust doesn't require convincing. It creates peace. So when you're asked, "Why don't you trust me?" in a way that makes you shrink instead of feel seen, pause. Ask yourself, have I been given a reason to trust? Has he protected our connection, or has he only performed loyalty when it was convenient? Because the question isn't why you don't trust, it's whether he's earned it, whether his actions invite it or simply demand it. Beloved, don't let anyone turn your longing for emotional safety into something shameful. You deserve to be with someone who doesn't make you defend your instincts, but cherishes them, who sees your questions not as threats, but as bridges, because love doesn't silence suspicion with guilt, it soothes it with truth. And you are worthy of that kind of love. There's a pain that doesn't scream, it shrinks. A pain that doesn't come from being yelled at, but from being dismissed. When someone looks at you and says, "You're too sensitive," they're not just commenting on your emotions. They're subtly telling you that your feelings are inconvenient, that your tenderness is a liability. And that, beloved, is how emotional weaponry is disguised as casual commentary. Sensitivity is not a flaw. It is not a weakness. It is a strength forged in presence and empathy. When you're sensitive, you feel deeply. You notice shifts in energy. You hear what isn't said. You carry not just your own emotions, but often the weight of the room around you. And while that's a gift, it can become a curse when someone uses it against you to escape accountability. When a man says you're too sensitive in response to your hurt, what he may really be saying is, I don't want to deal with the impact of my actions. It's not always that your reaction is too big. It's that his empathy is too small. Instead of meeting you in your pain, he distances himself from it by framing it as your problem. It's not that you're feeling too much. It's that he's willing to feel too little. Over time, this tactic can erode your sense of emotional safety. You begin to silence your truth before it even has the chance to find a voice. You begin to second guess your reactions, wondering, am I being dramatic? Or maybe I just need to get over it. You begin to carry both the wound and the shame of having the wound. That, beloved, is how emotional abuse often begins. Not with harshness, but with dismissal. Let's be clear. No one gets to tell you how deeply something should hurt. No one gets to grade your pain or shame you for it. Emotional honesty is not a threat to healthy relationships. It's the very foundation of them. A partner who loves you well will not call your softness too much. They will see it as sacred. They will listen to respond, but to understand. They will treat your tears as something to honor, not avoid. Too often, women are taught to wear armor in relationships, to be cool, chill, unbothered. But the truth is, emotional numbness is not love. Detachment isn't strength, it's survival. You shouldn't have to downplay your feelings to keep a relationship alive. That kind of connection doesn't deserve your spirit. What deserves you is someone who can sit in the fire with you, not someone who runs from the heat. And if your emotions make someone uncomfortable, that is not your cue to shrink. That is their invitation to grow. Because a real man, one who is emotionally mature, spiritually grounded, and genuinely invested, won't shame your sensitivity. He'll rise to meet it. He'll ask, tell me more, instead of why are you like this? He won't make you choose between being fully loved and fully expressed. So, beloved, if someone ever makes you feel foolish for feeling deeply, let that be your signal, not to feel less, but to expect more. The world needs more sensitive women, not fewer. The right people will not only make space for your sensitivity, they'll cherish it. Because in a world that tries to harden us, your softness is revolutionary. Don't apologize for it. Honor it. There are words that sound like kindness, but carry the sting of abandonment. You deserve better. At first, it feels like grace, like someone finally acknowledging your worth. But when it's spoken in place of honesty, when it's used as an exit ramp from responsibility, it becomes something else entirely. It becomes a carefully wrapped goodbye with a bow of false nobility. This phrase, in its truest form, should come from a friend, a therapist, or your own reflection in the mirror, not from the one who spent months or years chipping away at the love they now claim to be unworthy of. When a man says you deserve better, but offers no effort to become better, no attempt to rise with you, what he's really saying is, I don't want to change. It's a soft exit, but it still leaves you standing alone. It's subtle, almost poetic. He paints himself as the problem but disappears before he has to fix anything. He frames his leaving as a favor to you when in reality it's often a way to avoid facing the damage he's done. He hands you your dignity like a parting gift while stepping away from the mess he created. And beloved, it's hard because these words sound noble, even gentle, but sometimes they're just a cover for cowardice. You may find yourself in a storm of confusion. Part of you might still love him. Part of you might even admire the maturity in his statement. You'll replay his words in your mind. It's not you, it's me. I'm just not what you need. You deserve someone who can give you more. And yet, if he truly believed that, you'd see it in his actions, not just his exit. Love doesn't walk away to save face. Love stays and does the hard work. Here's what he won't tell you. You deserve better is often used as a shortcut around a real apology. Instead of saying, I broke your trust, or I failed to show up consistently, or I hurt you because I wasn't willing to grow, he offers this grand sounding conclusion that places you on a pedestal while he walks away without ever climbing up to meet you there. It's polished, it's painless for him, but it's profoundly confusing for you. And this is where you must be strong. Not the kind of strong that hardens your heart, but the kind that calls you back to yourself. The kind that says, yes, I do deserve better, but not because you told me. I knew that long before you ever said it. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't exit quietly when things get real. The kind of love that doesn't make a speech on the way out, but shows up differently every day it chooses to stay. So don't let those words become a lullaby that rocks you to sleep in denial. Don't cling to the illusion that his parting words were proof of his care. True care would have fought for you, would have asked, how can I make this right? Would have stayed present, stayed engaged, stayed real. Saying you deserve better without transformation is just another way to say, I'm not willing to be who you need. And beloved, that's not love. That's an excuse. Let these words, you deserve better, no longer echo as heartbreak in your soul, but as truth in your spirit. You do deserve better, not because someone left, but because you were always worthy of someone who would stay, grow, and evolve beside you. Someone who doesn't use your worth as a way out, but as a reason to rise. Never forget that, and never settle for anything less again.